Hello, I'm Brad Edwards. Thank you for streaming with us here on CBS News Chicago. Check out these con men racing around the Dan Ryan on scooters, hitting up drivers heading to a White Sox game. They're pretending to be parking attendants. A real cash grab. Drivers who refuse to pay face the wrath of these scammers.
I'm Taylor, and they're on 35th. They're east of the Expressway. There they are.
You are watching a modern-day version of highway robbery.
It's the money.
An organized team of thieves on motorized scooters swindling travelers in the middle of rush hour on the Dan Ryan Expressway.
We didn't see any police nearby, so that made us even more nervous.
We caught them demanding $40 in cash in order to pass.
They don't let you turn right unless you pay them the money.
It's kind of an extortion in a way.
Ryan Cawley and his wife Jackie were heading to a Chicago White Sox game when they were surrounded.
I just remember he went around to my side of the vehicle, and he was swearing at Ryan because Ryan had said no. And then at that point, he started swearing really loudly and then started kicking the car.
The scammers pretending to be official White Sox parking attendants.
They had the yellow vests on, and they had a fistful of cash, which gives them, the appearance that they're actually legit.
And they're on phones.
We were a little bit late, so it was like, the game's already started, Here, we need $40 cash, there's no spots left. If you want to get a spot, you got to give me the money now. And I said, well, I don't have $40 in cash. And I thought, the sign says credit debit. I have my credit card. He's like, no, man, that's not how it works. You need $40 cash. This is the last spot left. This is it.
And when you told them, no, I'm not going to pay it, they got aggressive.
Yeah, and I think that was around the time when he went around to the back and just started kicking us to get out.
And we've heard from other fans who have had their cars blocked, kicked, or punched. One woman reported to a traffic aide she was spit on when she refused to pay.
We hear from a lot of people who are mad about it.
Scott Reifert is the Chicago White Sox Vice President of Communications.
They're going the wrong way down the ramps and down the Dan Ryan.
Yeah.
He says they requested more police around the stadium for this season after we exposed another team of bogus parking attendants ripping off drivers last year.
White Sox parking, right?
Hey, we ain't doing
White Sox
parking.
No.
Selling parking tickets they had no right to sell on streets around the ballpark, even using an official White Sox parking sign to lure in fans who often end up getting parking tickets.
These guys have been out here selling stickers all day long.
Back then, police just stood by while it all happened, and the con men didn't stop until we confronted them.
You're selling stickers?
I ain't selling
Then this new team of scammers on scooters started operating this season, and the White Sox asked us to come back to catch and stop them too.
Now they're actually out on the highway.
Yeah. Well, I think they're getting desperate, probably. They're getting, you knocked them out of one area and another, and now they're coming all the way down. And that's a risky move, too. I mean, yeah, that could be dangerous.
The CBS 2 investigators found them in August, jamming up the highway between the 31st and 35th Street ramps.
They said $40. The guy up at the ramp right there.
What did he say, $40?
He said it was $40.
You said no, right?
Fans in this pickup truck shouted for police on foot patrol to help.
They're right there. They're right there.
Here's what we know about the operation. Before each game, the scammers assemble in a parking lot inside the Wentworth Gardens neighborhood. This man in the black hoodie appeared to be the leader, shouting out commands. The scooter crew operates freely, easily ripping off people.
They're down on the ramp. Well, he just took off. It's one of them.
Using lookouts to evade police.
There's 3 of them on scooters.
But there is something these con men could not escape. The CBS 2 investigators' drone in the sky and our cameras on the ground. We managed to get close-up videos of their faces. It's estimated they're making thousands of dollars a game.
What's your reaction when you see that video, the drone video, the video of them on the ramps, on the actual Dan Ryan?
Amazingly brazen, right? I mean, but these are scammers. They're just trying to take your money. They're trying to bully you, get you to stop and roll down a window and take your money.
They can be hard to catch. Watch as a state trooper cuts them off, and they take off the other way down the Dan Ryan.
Now they're using scooters.
It makes it much more complicated. They move. It's whack-a-mole.
White Sox officials say the scammers are also suspected of creating diversions. In one case, a 911 call was made claiming an off-duty officer was down, shot, here by the metro station, a few blocks east of the ballpark, to draw police away so they could freely continue to run their scam.
It was more of a shakedown than a scam.
It's more of a, I'm blocking your way.
The scammers don't just work the highway. The Collies say they were stopped as they tried to turn by this church right before the official entrance to a Sox parking lot.
We got to make it as difficult as we can for them and as challenging, and we got to make the punishment be there.
The White Sox even put up "Say No to Scammer" signs to try and warn fans only debit and credit cards are accepted in their lots, never cash. But look at the scammers operating their cash grab right in front of those signs. It wasn't until they spotted our drone that they finally scattered.
I felt afraid, and I didn't want anything to happen to our son.
She was especially worried about their little boy Jack. It was supposed to be his first baseball game. The 2-year-old was in the back seat as they kicked and banged the car.
Well, I know he saw that there was a child there, so.
Were you feeling some kind of fear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm still kind of afraid to go back. I don't think we will.
Joining us now on the stream to talk about these scooting scammers, CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini. Dave, you've been exposing parking scams like these around local stadiums for years now. It seems like every time you catch one ring, another pops up.
That's exactly right, Brad. We have been exposing these scammers around multiple stadiums in Chicago, the United Center and now Guaranteed Rate Field. And what happens normally is the scammers sell fraudulent parking passes or parking stickers that are illegal to resell. And they sell them to fans who are unsuspecting that this is happening because they wear the reflective vests, they act like they're official, they have the flashlight sometimes at night, and they give you something to put in your windshield, either on the dashboard or on the windshield itself, and it says, you know, you have the right to park here for this game, which is usually fraudulent. These are bogus, totally bogus passes. And that's the kind of scam we've exposed in the past. Last year, outside of the White Sox games, they were selling stickers and fraudulent passes as well, and putting people on side streets that they had no right, these were spots they had no right to sell. Well, we went in undercover using hidden cameras and surveillance cameras, and we shut them down. They actually stopped, not because the police stopped them. They stopped because we caught them and put their pictures on the news, and they just never came back. Well, this season started, and the White Sox organization called us back and said, we need your help. They're back at it. And there's a twist this time. It's not the same guys. It's a whole new team of scammers.
Dave, I know fans have been approaching you about these guys. They're reaching out to you. What are they saying? And what in particular are the White Sox as an organization doing about all of this?
So there's a few things that we've been told. Number one, people started tweeting at the White Sox and at CBS 2 and me and saying that we need to get you guys out here. CBS needs to come back. So the White Sox said, come on back, we need your help. They allowed us to put our drone up in the sky. Major League Baseball has to authorize you to do that. So what we did is we started conducting surveillance around the ballpark to show how this new operation works. They're very hard to catch because they've added scooters to their operation. We call them the scooter scam gang. And so the scooter scam gang now is wearing the reflective vests. They're going up and down the side streets around the ballpark. They're actually going out onto the Dan Ryan Expressway to try to catch people who are in line trying to get off at the 35th Street ramp or the 39th Street ramp, all the ramps around the ballpark, because there's always a juggernaut there. There's always so much traffic, especially right before game time. And they look for those fans that might be desperate, that might be running late, and they tell them, there's only so many spots left. You got to pay us. You got to pay us. They surround the cars. They bully people. People are afraid. That we're being told that they're using aggressive tactics, verbally assaulting people, hitting and kicking cars. Actually, one family reached out to us. They were supposed to have a special night. It was going to be their 2-year-old's first baseball game ever. He loves to throw the ball around the house. He loves to pretend like he's swinging a baseball bat. So this little boy named Jack was in the back seat of a car, family coming into the suburbs. It was their first White Sox game in years because they hadn't lived here for a while. But they were going to go back and they were going to go to Guaranteed Rate Field. These guys surrounded their car. The husband knew it was a scam. He felt it was a scam because he had already looked up online that the White Sox don't accept cash at their official parking lots. You have to pay in advance and have a prepaid scan, or you pay with a debit card, or you pay with a credit card at the physical lot. No one from the White Sox organization will ever come out onto the Dan Ryan Expressway and ask you for money. They also won't come out onto any of the surface streets around the ballpark as you're trying to get into those official parking lots. The White Sox own their, they have all these parking lots that they manage and operate, and they only take debit and credit cards at those lots. So this guy knew with his family in the car that this is probably a scam, and he only had 20 bucks in his pocket, and they demand 40 bucks, and they block your car. They won't let you go forward. We caught this type of activity with our drones going all around the ballpark because they shift, they go back and forth, they change locations, they use lookouts, they use the scooters to go the other way in traffic so police can't chase them. You know, there's all those traffic jams, so they go right down the narrow area, the wrong way down Wentworth Avenue, the wrong way down the Dan Ryan, when they suspect they're about to be caught. So we planted cameras all around the stadium, GoPros that were physically planted on the ramps so we could catch the operation that way, because if they saw us, they wouldn't have continued it. So back to the family, well, he says, no, I'm not going to buy your pass. You don't even have a pass to give me. I know they only take debit or credit card. They start beating on the car. They start kicking the car and swearing at them while the little guy is in the back seat. Here's what they had to say.
But this felt much more aggressive.
Like an assault.
Yeah, it was more of it was an assault, frankly.
Very aggressive.
Yes, very aggressive. Like swear words and kicking and just, yeah.
So Jackie Cawley, the mother, and Ryan Cawley, the father, they were so upset and so concerned that when they said no to the scammers and they were treated that way with the physical kicking and punching of the car and the swearing, that if they did proceed and park, that they might come out and do something to their car, they might damage their car, they'd already kicked the car. So they were afraid to even go to the game. They just turned around and went back home. And that's unfortunate because it was supposed to be a special moment for their little guy, and they don't know if they ever want to go back.
And we've heard from other fans who have had their cars blocked, kicked, or punched. One woman reported to a traffic aide she was spit on when she refused to pay.
It's crazy. It's absurd.
Anna Edis Gensel was taking her 10-year-old son to see the Dodgers play the White Sox when her car was surrounded.
So you didn't feel safe?
No.
You were worried they might reach in and grab your purse?
I feel like if at this point they're this bold to go up to you in eyesight of police, what's next?
A lot of people have reported to me, because this has been going on all season, that they just give them the money to get away because they're trapped on a ramp trying to get off, and they're surrounded by all these men being very aggressive, banging on the window, saying, you got to give us the money, you got to give us the money. They're afraid. If they have their kids in the car especially, they just give them the 40 bucks. And they're charging 40 bucks, by the way. It doesn't even cost 40 bucks to park at the park. It's $27. So you're already paying more than you're supposed to.
Dave, now another obvious question is what are police doing about all of this?
Well, that's a good question. Where are the police in all this? We do see police on foot patrol. They did step up their presence around the ballparks based on the White Sox continued request for more people, more police out there. They have them on the street, but they have not been able to chase them down while we're there. They obviously haven't been able to stop them because they continue to go out there. Actually, the White Sox are back home again this week. They're playing at home. They've been on the road the last few days, I think maybe the last week or so. So there hasn't been an opportunity for the scammers to be out there. But, you know, there are sometimes concerts at the ballpark after the games. They scam people that come to the ballpark for those concerts too. White Sox say that the police are trying, and their presence does seem to be making it a little bit harder for the scammers, which is why they're now on the Dan Ryan. Believe it or not, they used to just work the surface streets, but because they know police are on all the corners now, they're down on the Dan Ryan on the ramp and all the way from 35th to 31st Street as the traffic builds up, and they're hitting car after car after car. We have a great shot from the drone which actually follows these guys on their scooters going under 33rd Street ramp and follows them all the way up to the top of the ramp. A state trooper swoops in to try and stop them, but the state trooper is all by himself, and he gets out of the car, and the scammers just jump back on their scooters and go the other way. And now the trooper can't go in reverse down the Dan Ryan. It's the middle of rush hour. So as a safety issue, you imagine that the trooper has to make a choice. Do I try to arrest these guys or not? So the state police are putting troopers on the ramps, which they would be a part of policing. Chicago police have put cops on the corners on foot patrol. I even flagged down a few and said, hey, they're down there right now. But by the time they get to the ramps, they're already gone.
Dave, key question for you on the consumer end. What should fans do if they're confronted by these guys?
Well, that's actually a difficult question. You could try and just keep your window rolled up. Know that this is a scam right now. Know that they're sitting on the 35th Street ramp. Maybe get off at a different ramp. And if you see them somewhere else, don't roll your window down. Just keep going. Eventually, you're going to get past because traffic will start moving. They kind of corral people on the ramps getting off the Dan Ryan because it's only one lane and it's kind of hard to get by somebody. But I've seen people pull around to get away from these guys because they know it's a scam. It looks like they also target people with out-of-state plates. I've seen a lot of those cars approached. And then what they do is, if you say no, and a lot of people will shout, I've already got parking, I've already paid for it in advance. They'll act like, oh, okay, go ahead. So they see that the people behind them, the next motorist will see, oh, maybe these guys are legit. They're directing these people and they're listening to them. But they hold the cash in their hands. So if you see anybody coming out to you on the street, around the ballpark, or on the Dan Ryan Expressway with a reflective vest or on a scooter, holding cash in their hand and acting like they're a parking attendant, do not pay them. Just keep going. Go to the next ramp. Go to the 39th Street ramp. Get around these guys.
Now, I know there's no way to accurately calculate how much money these scammers have gotten away with, but you have to imagine at $40 a car, they're not walking away with chump change.
It's quite a bit of money. I mean, if you think about it, they do all this in a matter of an hour. They only have a small window to pull this off. Last season, they made thousands of dollars in just an hour selling the stickers that they weren't allowed to sell. $40 a pop. We found over 60 cars on the streets in just that little bit of time. Who knows how many more they would have sold because we busted up their operation that day. Well, flash forward to this year, and the scammers are working most of the home games, and especially the heavy populated home games like the Crosstown Classic. We had a lot of complaints for people that went to go see the Cubs play the White Sox. When the Yankees were there, any team that's a big draw, they're most likely going to be out there, or they were out there this year, because they know there's going to be more people coming to the ballpark, there's going to be more traffic, maybe people that aren't used to coming to the White Sox game, haven't been there in a while, might not understand the way the system works. It's a very congested area. So the scammers know this, and they use their lookouts to tell them, hey, the cops are on their way, they're coming to the ramp, you need to move. And then they're very coordinated. They scatter into the neighborhoods, they know all the back roads, they base their operation out of the Wentworth Gardens neighborhood, and it's very hard to follow them in that neighborhood because it's a bunch of different pathways and they're on those motorized scooters. So it's been quite a problem. The dollar amounts, the White Sox have given me some estimates of 15 to say 20 complaints a game about these guys. Those are people that actually stop to complain about them. So they have no idea how to put a real dollar figure on how many people hand over the money, but it is in the thousands, possibly in the thousands every game.
CBS 2 investigator and friend of the stream, Dave Savini. Dave, thank you. You can catch Dave's entire investigation premiering Wednesday night on the CBS 2 News at 10. I'm Brad Edwards. Thank you for joining us on the stream. Now back to the stream.